I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me. Honestly, I thought we had a solid relationship, or at least I did until that 1 week before our wedding. Her name's Amanda, and she's always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, quick to dismiss anything she didn't like, but I loved her. Or so I thought. We'd been together for 3 years, planning this big wedding, and I truly believed she was the one. That is, until I started noticing little things that didn't quite add up. It all started about a month ago. Amanda had been acting a bit distant, more irritable than usual. She'd snap at me over small stuff, cancel plans last minute, and say she was working late at the office. I didn't think much of it at first. People get busy, right? But then I started noticing her phone going off at strange times, her being overly secretive about her texts, and she'd often rush out the door with her purse when I wasn't looking. One night, I decided to follow her after she left work. I had a gut feeling, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I figured maybe she was just stressed about the wedding, or maybe she was having an affair. I didn't want to admit it, but I was starting to suspect something wasn't right. So I waited until she was about to leave the office, then followed her in my car. She drove to this fancy downtown hotel I'd never been to before. That raised a red flag right there. Amanda's not exactly the type to stay in hotels for business trips or anything like that. She's always been a homebody. I parked nearby, kept my distance, and watched her go inside. It was late, around 11 p.m., and she was alone. But then an hour later, a guy showed up tall, wearing a suit, and they went into the hotel together. My heart started pounding. I felt this mix of shock, anger, and disbelief. I mean, she told me she was working late that night, that she was preparing for her big presentation the next day. She swore she never left the office. And here she was, sneaking off to a hotel with another man. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept racing. I kept telling myself it was just a mistake, maybe something innocent. But then I remembered how she'd been acting lately, how she'd lied about her whereabouts, and how she'd been so bitchy when I'd asked her about her late nights. I knew I had to find out the truth. I started digging through her stuff the next day, trying to find evidence. I checked her phone, her emails, her purse, anything that could give me a clue. And then I found it. Hidden in her purse was a small hotel room key. Not just any key. It was a key to a room in a hotel downtown, one I'd never seen her go into before. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. All the pieces snapped into place. She'd been lying all along. She'd been cheating on me with her boss, Robert, from work. I knew Robert. He's a slimy guy, always trying to impress Amanda, and I knew he liked her. But I never thought she'd actually go down that road. She had blatantly lied about working late, about needing to stay behind for important meetings. Turns out, those meetings were just her and Robert sneaking around. When I confronted her with the evidence, she just rolled her eyes and told me I was jealous and paranoid. That Robert was just a friend, and I was overreacting. She told me I was insecure, that she was just having a little fun, that it didn't mean anything. That she loved me and would never cheat, but somehow, her actions told a different story. I felt like my world was crashing down. I saw through her lies, her bitchy attitude, and her total lack of remorse. That's when I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know exactly what. After I found the hotel room key, everything changed. I couldn't just pretend I didn't know what she was doing. My mind was racing, and I felt this surge of anger and betrayal I'd never experienced before. I thought about confronting her right then, but I knew she'd spin some story, lie her way out of it, and I'd be back to square one. Instead, I decided to play it cool, gather more evidence, and plan my next move carefully. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the times she'd been bitchy, dismissive, and how she'd lied. About working late. The worst part was how she'd swore she loved me, swore she'd never cheat. That was the biggest lie of all. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. I thought about all those moments where she'd been short-tempered or snapped at me over nothing, and now I knew she was hiding this secret affair with Robert. It made me feel sick. The next few days, I decided to keep my distance. I wanted to see if she'd slip up, if she'd do something else that confirmed my suspicions. I kept watch from a distance, following her on her lunch breaks, checking her phone and waiting for her to make another mistake. But she was sneaky. She cleaned out her messages, deleted everything, left her phone on silent, and became even more bitchy if I asked about her plans or her whereabouts. It was like she was deliberately trying to push me away. Honestly, I felt humiliated but also more determined to catch her in the act. One afternoon, I saw her get into a fancy car with Robert. They drove off, and I decided to follow them again. They ended up at that same hotel, but this time I waited in my car nearby. I watched her go inside, feeling this sick mixture of rage and heartbreak. I knew I couldn't keep quiet about this. I had to do something, be it confront her, or worse, expose her. I thought about calling her out in front of everyone, or maybe just telling her I knew everything and demanding answers. But I was also scared because I knew how she'd react. Amanda's the type to get nasty when she's caught cheating. She'd deny, blame me, or try to turn it around on me. That's when I realized I needed to be smart. I started recording some of her secret meetings, taking pictures when she was with Robert and gathering all the proof I could. I knew I had her cornered, and I wanted her to see that I wasn't naive anymore. I also started contemplating the fallout, not just for me, but for her reputation at work, her relationships with everyone else. Her attitude had been so bitchy lately, and now I saw that was just her hiding who she really was. During this time, I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, betrayal. I kept asking myself if I should just forget about her, let her go, or fight for whatever was left of us. Honestly, part of me still loved her, or at least wanted to believe I did. But every time I saw her sneaking around with Robert, that love was replaced by disgust. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I was starting to see her true colors, her manipulative, bitchy side that she'd hidden behind a pretty face and a false smile. The hardest part was knowing I'd have to face her, confront her with everything I'd uncovered. I wasn't sure if I wanted to yell, cry, or just walk away, but I knew something had to give. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was normal. The wedding was only a week away, and I felt like I was holding a ticking time bomb in my hands. I didn't know what I'd say or how she'd react, but I was certain about one thing: this was the end of the line for us. The day I decided to confront Amanda, I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want her to spin her usual lies or turn things around on me. I had enough evidence now: photos, recordings, her hotel key, and I was determined to make her face the reality of what she'd done. But even with all that, I felt this sick knot in my stomach. Part of me still hoped she'd somehow deny everything and pull her little "I'm working late" act. That was wishful thinking, though. I'd seen too much, caught her in too many lies. That evening, I waited until she got home from work. She strutted in, already bitchy from the moment she saw me. "What do you want?" she snapped, rolling her eyes. I kept my cool, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "I need to talk. It's about us, about you." She crossed her arms, smirking like she already knew I was about to ruin her day. I pulled out the photos I'd taken, the hotel room, her coming in and out, her with Robert. I played the recordings I'd made of their sneaky conversations, the times she'd lied about being at the office. Her face twisted into this annoyed, defensive expression, but I could see the crack in her false facade. She was trying to act like I was overreacting, like I was crazy, but I was. I was done pretending. Her reaction was classic Amanda, bitchy, dismissive, full of lies. She told me I was just paranoid, that Robert was a friend, that I was insecure and jealous. She said I was ruining everything with my accusations. "You're just overreacting," she hissed, her voice dripping with contempt. "You don't want me to have friends at work. You're crazy. This is all in your head." I could see her trying to spin it, trying to keep her image intact. But her words rang hollow because I had the proof right in front of her. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Rage because she betrayed me so deeply, and sadness because I truly believed she loved me. Her insults, her manipulative tone, they all just showed what a total bitch she'd become. I told her I knew everything, that I was done with her lies, done with her hiding her affair. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, that our wedding was off. She sneered at me, said I was just jealous and insecure, and tried to deny everything. But I wasn't backing down anymore. The worst part was how she looked at me after I revealed everything. There was no remorse, no guilt, just that bitchy smirk, like she had already won. That moment hit me hard. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those years, all the plans, the future we talked about, they meant nothing if she was just going to cheat on me and lie her way out of it. I realized then that I had to choose, keep her around and be miserable, or cut her out and move on. I couldn't keep living in this lie. I told her she needed to leave, not just for tonight but forever. I wanted her gone from my life. She threw a tantrum, called me names, said I was crazy for throwing away everything we had. But I didn't care. I was done. I looked at her, her bitchy sneer, her manipulative eyes, and I knew this was the end of our story together. The trust was shattered, and I didn't see any way back from that. I felt empty but also strangely relieved. It was like I finally saw her for who she really was, and I did want her in my life anymore. After she finally left, I stood there in my apartment, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It was over. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved and planned to marry, had been cheating on me with her boss. The betrayal cut deep, but at least now I knew the truth. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being used, played for a fool by someone who'd always been so bitchy, so manipulative. The worst part was realizing how long she'd been lying, about her late nights, her working, her supposed love for me. It all crumbled in an instant. For days afterward, I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to friends or family, just wanted to be alone with my thoughts. I kept replaying that confrontation in my head, trying to understand how she could be so cold, so callous. I thought about the times she dismissed me, called me insecure or paranoid when I questioned her. Now I saw her true colors, a bitchy, selfish woman who'd cheat and lie without a second thought. It made me sick, but it also made me angry. I started reaching out to some of her colleagues, trying to figure out more about her affair with Robert. I learned that she'd been meeting him secretly for months, always sneaking around, always lying. One coworker told me she often snapped at everyone, was bitchy and dismissive when things didn't go her way. That explained a lot. I realized her attitude was just a defense mechanism, her way of hiding her guilt, her shame. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting. Now I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who had no regard for my feelings or our relationship. I also started to reflect on what this meant for me. I'd never been through something like this before, this kind of betrayal. I was angry, but I was also hurt. I'd given her so much, and she'd thrown it all away for Robert. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for believing in her love. But I also knew I had to move on. I couldn't keep living in the past, dwelling on what I lost. I started making plans to focus on myself, to rebuild my confidence, and figure out what I really wanted from life. The biggest shock was realizing how much her betrayal affected my self-esteem. I'd always been a decent guy, loyal, hardworking, honest, but now I wondered if I was enough. Did I miss the signs? Was I not good enough? I hated feeling like this, but I knew I had to face my feelings head-on. I told myself I deserved better, that I shouldn't let this define me. I needed to heal, and that meant cutting out all the bitterness and anger, no matter how justified I felt. In the quiet moments, I kept thinking about that hotel key, her lies, the entire charade she'd put on for everyone. I realized that the Amanda I was mourning wasn't even real. She was just a woman who'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and used me. And yet deep down, I knew I'd be okay, eventually. I had to be. But for now, I just allowed myself to feel everything, the pain, the anger, the disappointment. It was a long road ahead, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I was going to come out of this stronger, even if it took some time. Weeks passed, and I tried to put the pieces of my shattered trust back together. It wasn't easy. Every day brought new reminders of her, her voice, her smile, the way she used to look at me with affection. Now all I saw was a stranger, a woman I thought I knew who had been so bitchy and so full of lies. Still, I refused to stay stuck in that anger and sadness forever. I knew I had to make a decision, one way or another. One night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the pictures we'd taken before the wedding. Memories were bittersweet. Part of me wanted to reach out to try to talk to her to get some kind of closure, but another part knew better. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and for what? A meaningless affair with her boss. I told myself she was just a bitchy, manipulative woman who didn't deserve my forgiveness. I realized I'd have to choose whether to fight to fix this or just walk away completely. My friends kept telling me I should just cut her out of my life for good. I knew they were right. The trust was gone, and I didn't see how I could ever look at her the same way again. I started thinking about what I truly wanted: peace, happiness, maybe even someone who wouldn't cheat on me or call me insecure when I asked questions. I'd been through enough emotional roller coasters, and I decided I couldn't let her continue to control me with her bitchy attitude and lies. So I made a choice. I decided to move on, to focus on myself. I started hitting the gym, working on my career, and reconnecting with friends I distanced myself from during the wedding planning chaos. I also got rid of everything that reminded me of her: her clothes, her jewelry, even some of the photos. It was hard, but I knew I had to do it to free myself from her shadow. I didn't want to hate her, but I also didn't want to keep carrying the pain of her betrayal. The most surprising part was how much better I started feeling. Slowly, I regained my confidence. I realized I didn't need her validation or approval. I was enough without her. I even started dating again, cautiously, but it felt right. I didn't want to be with someone who'd lie and cheat like Amanda did. I wanted honesty, loyalty, and respect. That's what I deserved. Looking back now, I see how much this experience changed me. It taught me that I can survive betrayal, that I don't have to be defined by someone else's lies or bitchy attitude. I learned to trust myself more, to listen to my instincts, and to never ignore the warning signs again. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through something similar, it's this: don't let the betrayal break you. Use it as a lesson, a wake-up call. Cut out the toxic people, focus on your healing, and remember, you're worth so much more than someone who cheats and lies to you. The pain won't last forever, but your strength will. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything that happened, I realize how much I've grown from this nightmare. Losing Amanda was brutal. The betrayal cut deep and left scars I thought would never heal. But over time, I learned to accept that some people just aren't worth the pain they cause. Amanda's bitchy, manipulative attitude was a mask for her own insecurities and selfishness. I was naive to believe she was perfect, to think she loved me the way I loved her. Getting rid of her and moving on wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I've come to understand that loyalty and honesty are the foundations of any real relationship, and hers were completely broken. I don't hold any hatred, only a quiet sense of relief. I'm finally free from the constant stress, the lies, and the feeling that I was walking on eggshells just to keep her happy. Now I focus on building my life around trust, respect, and genuine connection, not superficial bullshit. If I've learned anything, it's that the biggest betrayal often comes from someone you trust the most. But that betrayal doesn't have to define you. You can choose to let it make you stronger. I've learned to value myself more, to listen to my gut, and to never ignore those red flags again. I know now that I deserve someone who respects me, who doesn't call me insecure just because I ask questions or want to know if they're cheating. Most importantly, I've come to accept that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. It hurts, sure, but staying would only mean accepting more lies and bitchy behavior that would tear me apart inside. I'm grateful for the lessons this experience has taught me, lessons of self-respect, resilience, and understanding that I don't need someone who manipulates and cheats to feel complete. So, for anyone out there dealing with betrayal or cheating, I'll say this: don't let it destroy you. Use it as a wake-up call. Cut the toxic people out, focus on your healing, and remember, you are worth so much more than someone who treats you like dirt. You'll survive, you'll grow, and someday, you'll look back and realize that what broke you only made you stronger. Trust me, this pain is temporary. Your strength is.